right, guys, so last week I usually do a Q&A, and this time I asked the question. And what are the question I asked? And it wasn't because I needed content or anything like that, but I really want to hear what you guys have to say and what you guys want to hear about. So the question I asked last week is, what are some of the things you guys want to hear about? And overwhelmingly, it was workout and supplementation. And in this particular video here that I'm going to do right now, I'm going to concentrate more on workouts than anything, because getting into supplementation, and I will get into supplementation, there are so many, and it really wasn't clarified what type of supplementation there is. So I could have make a 2-hour YouTube on different types of supplements and subcategories of supplementation, and ranging all the way from from steroids to SARMs to vitamin supplements to mineral supplements to creatines to all that. So it's kind of a long one to answer, that it really can't be answered all at one time. So what I'm going to do right now, or at least I should say, I'm not prepared to answer that right now, because we need to break it down. That's basically about it. So what I'm going to talk about right now is basically workouts. And I know there are a lot of younger people out there who just really have not, they've been working out, but they're really not that experienced in it. And a lot of the questions are about training. All right. So the first thing I'm gonna go ahead and say this. Okay. Warm-ups. I'm going to start with warm-ups, and this is kind of a thing that's been bothering me now for a long time. And being in the training business and training myself for 45 years, the one thing that I've noticed is that the warm-ups are so antiquated, and there's no advancement whatsoever. And I'm talking about on the bodybuilding side. I haven't seen much of anything. It's the same old shoulder warm-ups. It's the same old leg warm-ups. It's you get in there and you do your your external rotations a little bit, and then you get on with it. You do a couple light reps and you get on with it. The thing is it really is antiquated, and it's the same freaking warm-ups that I've been doing, or that have been done ever since I've been training. And it's been a long time. So first thing I'm going to talk about is, whenever you design a routine, and I don't care if it is for bodybuilding, I don't care if it's for fitness, I don't care if it's for sport, the first thing you've got to do is you got to think about what you're going to do, okay? And you have to think about, how am I going to design this program for maximal results and limiting my risk of injury. And it doesn't make any difference. And sometimes the risk of injury comes from lack of warm-up. If you don't warm up properly, you're screwed. Look, we're coming into the winter months now, and it takes a long time to warm up. And especially, even if you've been training for a long time, the warm-ups have to be really significant. And I'm not talking about just getting on a Smith machine or grabbing a pair of light dumbbells and doing a couple sets of, lateral raises or whatever. Okay, I'm really thinking about, you guys need to get in there, and you guys need to learn activation. You guys need to learn how to really warm up stabilizers. And when I say stabilizers, I'm talking about rotator cuff. Now, look, you can't warm up rotator cuff all the time with an external rotation, and I'll tell you why. Okay, because you have 4 muscles in your rotator cuff, and if you keep on doing this all the time, it's like any other muscle, it's going to grow. So so getting it down, you have your shoulder capsule, you have your labrum that goes on the outside, then you have your ball and socket that goes in right here, and then right in between that, you have the 4 stabilizer muscles of the rotator cuff. And what's going to happen is, because they are muscles, they will grow, and you don't want them to really grow. You want them to get stronger. And it comes into tendon and ligament strength and everything else. Okay, so that's the first thing. Okay, so you need to also learn activation. Muscles need to be activated. Certain muscles need to be activated, and we call that phasic and tonic. Okay, so phasic basically means the muscles are off. And let's go ahead and take glutes, for example, right? Before you squat or something like that, right? These muscles need to be activated, and and so they need to fire up. And I know it's a word that everybody's heard. You got to fire it up. You do. These particular muscles need to be fired up in order for them to function correctly and move correctly. Okay, so that's another thing. You need to learn how to activate muscles. You need how to warm them up and things like that. And I'm going to be making a series. I'm going to be making actually a shoulder series and a warm up series of specifically how to warm up, in my mind, correctly without, that's going to help limit the risk of injury. And that's really what it's all about. You go in cold, wind up fucking yourself up, then wind up wiping yourself out for a month or 6 weeks or whatever because you did improper warm-ups. Okay, and we're gonna, when I get into that series, I'm gonna go ahead and get away from it down to get away from the old, again, antiquated warm-ups that we've been doing since the freaking 70s, 60s, 80s, fucking whatever, because it's just getting old. And and a lot of trainers and stuff like that, it's training really hasn't changed that much, and there isn't a whole lot of science that's going into it. And coming from a strength conditioning background as well, you learn these things, the sciences of warming up and activation, things like that can be carried over to bodybuilding, and that can really increase the longevity of your training career, your competition career, your competing career, whatever you want to call it, right? And just and just make everything better. Okay, so that's the first thing. Warm-ups, got to get rid of them, got to change them, and we're going to do that. We're going to get into that later. Okay, the other thing too is, now since you guys said workouts, again, it really wasn't specified, so I'm going to get into a little bit of each type of warm-up, or I'm sorry, each type of workout. Now, if we're talking workout, if we're talking about training for sport, and I'm going to use football because I train football. I've got guys that play for D1 colleges. I've got guys in the NFL, and it's just not all weight room work, believe it or not. Even though I'm a meathead in the gym, right, we do a lot of field work and things like that. So don't just think that everything that I do is just in a gym. But we are going to take this for the purpose of this. We're going to take this in the gym. Now, whenever I train somebody for sport, right, we go by a percentage, and I'll get their 1 rep max, and we'll go ahead and we'll build power and strength through that. And it's going to be mostly on the main lifts, whether it would be a squat, a deadlift, a bench press, possibly a clean, hang clean, power clean, or whatever. And we're going to go ahead and gauge that. Everything. So after that, everything is based on a percentage. Each week we try to build our numbers up, and we try to get stronger, so on and so forth. That being said, all the auxiliary work behind these main lifts are designed to reinforce, I'm sorry, let me say that again. All of the auxiliary lifts are designed to reinforce the main lifts. And what I mean by auxiliary lifts are the lifts that come after the main lifts. Okay, so for example, if I'm going to go ahead and squat, right, and I want to go ahead and get my squat up, for example, and I want my football player to get his squat up, and let's just go ahead and say he's a D lineman, he's a D end, D tackle, whatever. I want these guys strong, and so these guys are going to be doing, like I said, the auxiliary work to get the main lifts up, and it could be, we're going to go on to, it could be followed up by a deadlift, and it will be followed up by a single leg lift. Now, the difference between training for sport and the difference between training for bodybuilding is night and day. Okay, training for sport, when I train for sport, when I train an athlete for sport, I am not putting them on a machine for lower body whatsoever. Okay? If I do, it's going to be reverse hyper. Okay? Or it is going to be a glute ham raise. Okay? It's going to be something that's going to really strengthen their posterior chain. Okay? Other than that, we are training multi-joint. Multi-joint meaning you're using multiple joints at one time when you move. Okay? Now, training for bodybuilding, whole lot of difference. Now, even though we will get some hypertrophy when it comes to training for sport, it's going to be nothing like it would be if we're training for bodybuilding, because what we're doing with bodybuilding, we are overloading. We're going higher volume. Now, as opposed to, let's say, training for sport. If I'm in the power phase, I'm going to keep my reps between 1 and 5, and we are not going to go above 5. Matter of fact, we'll more than likely, if we're at a bench, deadlift, squat, or power clean, right, I'm actually keeping my reps between 1 and 3. Then the auxiliaries, we're going to go somewhere between 5 and 8, and go from there. With bodybuilding, right, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different. Okay, with bodybuilding, we're going for more hypertrophy. We want size. We want to isolate. So I'm going to put guys on machines, and I'm going to go ahead and we're going to target certain muscle groups, and we're going to do that by overloading the muscle. And I'm going to increase the reps. So the volume is much higher than it would be if I'm training for sport. Okay. So for example, if I'm not going to do, for example, say if I'm going to do an upper body workout for a football player, right? The entire upper body workout probably won't consist of any more than, maybe 4 or 5 exercises. I'm sorry, I take that back. It's not going to consist of any more than probably 4 exercises at, except for the main lift, I might go up to about 8 or 10 sets, but the reps are going to be kept low, right? I'll probably keep them, right around, 13, 14 sets for the entire upper body. Okay. Now, as opposed to bodybuilding, right, I'm going to do that for one fucking body part, right? And probably more, because that's just the way I train. I'm a volume trainer. I believe that overloading the muscle every time you train and concentrating on it, and we're going to use the time under tension. We'll do supersets. We'll do things like that, right? But I want to keep my reps somewhere in the vicinity, right, of 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 reps, because I'm trying to really overload the muscle. I'm trying to create stimulation in that muscle fiber to grow as much as possible. Okay, and that goes for just about every body part. Smaller body parts, I'm going to raise my reps a little bit, but I'm going to lower my sets. So for example, if I'm going to do, for example, 18 to 22 sets for chest, right, I'm going to probably go anywhere from 12 to 14 reps for, 12 to 14 sets for bicep and tricep. Okay, but my rep range is going to be a lot higher, because these smaller muscle groups require a little bit more stimulation than the bigger muscle groups. Okay, even though I'm still going at much higher reps. Okay, for bodybuilding purposes. So that's basically the difference in a nutshell of how I train and what the variations of training are. Now, when we get into other things, stuff like that, I'm not even going to get into other sports like fucking cross country running and things like that, because, well, I could tell right now it's going to be useless to us. Okay, but for sport, okay, I'm training the energy systems. The 3 energy systems that are in the body, right, that are going to be utilized are going to be ATP, CP, glycolytic, and aerobic. Not anaerobic, aerobic. Okay, and for what we do, for sport, for football, baseball, whatever, I will never get into the aerobic capacity. Okay, because it just doesn't fit our agenda. It's not how the sport is. It's not how the sport is played, and you have to break that down. Okay, when I get up into bodybuilding, things like that, then we get up into higher reps. Then I'm going to go into a hypertrophy phase. My reps are going to be somewhere between again, I already just said it. And this is, this is based on different rep ranges that are, that we find that works. And, you got studies and things like that that back it up. So we're just not out there just guessing. And one thing I don't do is I don't fucking walk in the gym and I don't guess what I'm going to do, even if it's a chest day. I'll have a certain workout that's going to be, that I'm going to plan for four to 6 weeks, right? Of, let's say, of a split, right? Then I'm going to change that split up, and these exercises for those 4 weeks will probably be pretty close to the same thing. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and change it up. I'm going to change that workout up just a little bit because I don't want to create accommodation. And then the rep range is going to change too. I might lower the reps, okay, just to go ahead and have the body change up a little bit, and again, not get accommodated to certain things. And that's basically in a nutshell how I about workouts and stuff like that. Since the question was kind of vague and stuff like that, I want to try and cover both aspects of bodybuilding and sport. I hope I did that. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. Please subscribe. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear more of what you guys have to say. And, and that's it. Talk to you guys later.